You're very welcome back to the show now. From smartphones to laptops and TVs, our lives are full of screens. We wake up with them, we go to bed with them and spend the day with them glued to our hands. So how is this constant need to be switched on affecting our actual health? Well, my next guest is from Quokka Wellness, and their aim is to help workers be happy in the digital world. They're passionate about managing our digital health and here to share some tips even on how to do this. Please welcome Carrie Budds to the show. Thank you so much for joining us today. You picked, I like the name Quokka. Why did you pick Quokka as a name?
Quokka, they're a marsupial from Australia, actually, and if anyone gets a chance to look them up afterwards, they're the happiest animals in the world, and that's what they're said to be. Yeah, they're really cute, big smiley faces on them.
Look at them!
So,
aren't they just adorable?
They're really cute, yeah. So that's the idea. There we go. Yeah, that's the idea.
See, they just make you happy anyway.
Yeah, they make you smile
them.
just by looking at them. Yeah.
Why are they supposed to be the happy? Why are they supposed to be the happiest animals? Just generally content?
Yeah, I think so. Like, I know they live on an island off Australia, and we're not supposed to, humans aren't supposed to interact with them too much, because they're actually really, really friendly, and they get really comfortable in human company. And they just have one of those faces that's always smiling. Yeah, they're really cute.
They do.
Yeah.
And it's important to have this sort of attitude in your life as well. And I suppose in recent years, we're getting addicted. We're getting properly addicted in a bad way to our digital screens, our iPads, particularly our smartphones. What sort of effect is that having on our health?
Yeah, so it's interesting, like the word addiction's kind of coming up more and more when it comes to smartphones and technologies. And there's actually, they've said that the internet is one particular addiction. Now they've classified it in parts of the UK. The effect really depends. We obviously have mental health on one side, but then we have our physical health too. So the more we're on our phones, probably the less active we are, the more inactive we are. So the idea is to kind of look at our phones as serving us rather than it being kind of in control of what we do. So there's a very compulsive element to things like smartphones where we kind of use them where it feels like they're in control of what we're doing with them rather than the other way around.
Yeah, and digital detox is a phrase that's been bandied around quite a lot, but you don't believe in completely switching off from the phone as well. It's about managing your actual digital experience.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the idea is, it's some things, people have different tolerances for stuff, and I'm not a big fan of detoxing in general. I have a background as a personal trainer and a health and fitness coach.
Oh God,
so I think,
say no more, yeah.
Cutting things out usually doesn't work in the long term.
No.
That's really the idea I have. But sometimes, if people are very heavy users, it might work to cut things out, or certain, maybe Facebook or Instagram, one application that you know is kind of causing you some problems, and cut that out completely for a little while and then reintroduce it.
So what are the main tips you would have for the moment for anyone who's struggling? Like, particularly, I suppose, if you're working in a business background, if you need your devices for work, you can't really do the 9 to 5, can you?
Yeah, well, that's it. And like, I'm self-employed, and that was the time when I turned to being self-employed about 4 years ago. That was the time when I really started to use my phone a lot. Like, my usage went really, really high, and I had to start pulling it back. So a couple of tips I have for people is to, number one would be to understand your boundaries. So really, like, use your phone for a couple of days, just take notes, even mentally, or write them down. What are you comfortable with, or what were the times you said, God, I've lost an hour there of my time on whatever application it might be, and just figure that out. So sometimes just knowing what you're fine with and what is causing you problems can be step one. That would be a big one, I would say. Another one would be to look at your applications and see where you can change settings. So a lot of the settings in our applications, they're there to keep us online for as long as they possibly can. So look at things like notifications for any of your social media accounts.
Turn them off so you're not...
Turn them off. Like, I've deleted my applications. I've gotten to the stage now, step by step, where I've removed nearly all of my social media applications. I can still access them on Chrome or any of the internet browsers, but I don't have them in application on my phone anymore. They're just gone.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, like, it didn't happen overnight or anything like that, but that's the stage I got to, because I was using them impulsively. So it was one click. I need to click on my application and it would open up. Now I have to take 3 or 4 clicks. So it takes a bit of time for me. So if I want to use an application, then I have to consciously do it, and I have to really do it with intent and say, okay, I have to go into my browser, open up the web browser for that particular social media account. And
I have no boundaries when it comes to social media at all, or anything, because I do a lot of my research through Twitter, through various other articles, and I get a lot of my news through that sort of thing as well. So I'm never, the phone is glued to my hand. I'm always on email, I'm always on something. I'm terrible, and so I have no boundaries at all when it comes to work at all.
Yeah.
And I tried to, and I did, you know, the app where everything goes dark at 10 o'clock at night and you can't access anything unless you do this. And sure, that didn't last very long either, because I had FOMO. I mean, it was terrible. I have a problem. I really do.
And that's the other side. The FOMO side can be another stressor as well. But I'd say step one for you definitely, Elaine, could be a useful one. Just to seek, you might be fine with it.
Yeah.
You might be really something that's okay because it's work related and it might be causing you stress. It just depends.
I went in and I changed the settings and say like my Facebook, my Twitter, my Insta, so that I don't actually get pop-up notifications. You know, when you get a text message, you get a pop-up saying Elaine has texted you. And I used to get like pick up my phone after 10 minutes and I'd have something like 47 notifications. And the stress of how instantly I'd feel my body get stressed having to go through them all. And most of them were just that somebody liked a picture on Facebook or something. And these really aren't things that I need to be notified about.
No.
So I removed my notifications from Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Now I only get them for WhatsApp and text.
Yeah.
So it just means that if I want to go onto my Facebook and have a look and see 36 notifications because different people like photos, that's fine. I've chosen to go into Facebook, but I don't want Facebook jumping at me all the time.
That's the control element then as well. You're in control of what you're going to do with it.
And I feel less stressed. I genuinely feel less stressed.
Yeah. The mental health aspect of it, I think, is what scares me the most, because I would have spent a lot of time, you know, I used to spend a lot of time on social media, especially because of what I do. You have to kind of keep in with the Joneses and keep your pictures up and gigs and everything. And you feel like if you're off in like the internet for a day, you've missed something, you know. But I think it gets to a point where it's very unhealthy. You know, you're constantly, I'm guilty of it as well, comparing yourself to, you know, X, Y, and Z, and they got more likes than I did, or, you know, and you have to get to a stage where you're like, this is actually affecting my mental health, as well as your physical health, because your back starts to hurt, your fingers start to hurt, your eyes start to hurt.
Text neck, you get that neck clicky thing. I mean, that's the physical side of things, but do you think the younger generation have it worse than us when it comes to this sort of issue?
Yeah, like it's really interesting. We were talking off air earlier that like we're in a really unique situation at the moment where we've kind of got 5 generations of people. On the upper end, we have people who maybe never had a smartphone, never probably will, or maybe we got them a digital device like that when they became grandparents, all the way down to children who are 1 and 2 and know how to use a phone, they know how to unlock it and that kind of thing. So we really don't know the impact, actually. We don't know what even long-term the impact's going to have on our health and our well-being. But we do know certain things that are going to cause problems. And for a lot of, say, teenagers, I think the generation that would concern me the most would be late teens, early 20s, where they've grown into this, they've grown up with a digital device or a smartphone, and we didn't know, even as adults, really what the implication was. So they have them a lot. The younger generation, I think parents have become much more aware, and they're much more kind of in tune with what's good and bad. They might do it themselves, but they're really in tune with what their kids maybe need or how much the guidelines are for being online, that kind of stuff. But yeah, I would be concerned. And Instagram actually today, I don't know if you heard the news, that they've come up with a new feature and they're testing it, where on the bottom of photos you can't see as a third party or someone looking at somebody else's photos how many likes that photo or video has gotten. It would just say like whoever plus others like this photo. So it takes a bit of pressure off teenagers or anyone, seeing how many likes another picture has.
Because it's almost addictive having that need to be validated.
Of course,
all the time.
and we have it offline as well, and it's just online has allowed us more to be more accessible.
What about what you do now? You come into various workplaces and talk about digital wellness. What can you do in a workplace to get the message through? Because I'd say sometimes it's like talking to that.
It
really being here anyway. I don't know.
It's so funny. It really depends on the company as well. Like what you're looking at is on one side you have the digital side of things, which enables a lot of these activities or these behaviours, and on the other side you have a workplace culture, which could be that you're always expected to be accessible outside of work. Email outside of work on your smartphone, it enables that. So you have to address kind of the two sides of that as well. What I find a lot of the time, what kind of can really strike home with people is looking at the two sides. You have extrinsic and intrinsic kind of motivators or drivers of your activities and your behaviours. And it's much easier to control your environment than it is your willpower. So when I go to a company, you look at saying, OK, how can you foster a really healthy relationship with digital devices, with email, which is a big, big one in workplaces, so that people are able to foster these really healthy behaviours. So you give them an idea, OK, there is rules inside the company to say you can't have work email enabled on your smartphone.
In France, they made it a legal obligation last year that you, after 6 o'clock at the end of the year, you're not obliged to access or answer work emails.
And that's your environment versus your willpower. So they are, they're really empowering people to take this advice on board and really, act on it.
Yeah, and because that can only be a good thing, because we're getting burnt out, we're getting stressed. Stress levels are, and our lives should be getting easier. Technology should be making our lives easier, not more difficult.
That's it, exactly. And we like, a lot of us, we might come to the end of the day and you're going to have a really productive day, did loads, and you feel like actually when you look at what you did, it wasn't that much, and it could have been 90% replying to emails. And maybe it was a really, really busy day, but you didn't get as much productively done that you wanted to do. Now, it doesn't mean we need to be productive 100% of the time, but the list you had, you mightn't have gotten through it because you were responding.
Are companies more receptive to this sort of idea now, because it's kind of gone from the everyone has to be switched on 24/7, everyone needs to be accessible because of we have given you this company phone or we have given you this company laptop.
Exactly.
We're better off working for shorter periods and more productively. Is that filtering down yet, do you think?
I think it is. Like, I think the science is getting out there as well, because one of the big problems with smartphones or notifications, again, if you're trying to do deep work or something that needs some kind of concentration, if that concentration is broken by a notification or the little email icon at the bottom of the screen, if you get distracted, it actually takes you up to 20 minutes to get back into the focus again. So that's where you can really kind of sell it to a company to say, this is why it's so important for your company. If you want someone to work in a report or a team to work together on something, if one of them is getting distracted, for the whole team, it only takes them 20 minutes to come back into focus again. So it's that side that really will help companies to really understand how it can have an impact on their bottom line, because that's probably number one, and then on their employee-centred health and safety, which is the other aspect that is probably most important.
And it has to come from the top down, I guess, doesn't it?
Of course.
I'm a devil for this, because I would send emails at all hours of the day and night. But if one of the girls replied to me, I'll go, it's 11 o'clock, what are you doing on your work email? Go to sleep or go to... And they're like, hello, I'm a hypocrite. I'm the one sending the email in the first place,
and the thing is, you can't be prescriptive. So you might work really well on your admin side of email in the evening, and that's fine. But if you are a boss in a company, or you're someone at a level above some of your other colleagues, or in the same level, you just make it clear that you don't expect a response, that this is your time when you deal with that. Because everyone works differently. I know people who are self-employed. 2 hours in the evening is when they do their email, and that's when they do it. And if that needed to change, it would be really difficult for them to change it. It's what the flow they found, and it works really well for them.
So how do people get in touch with you now if they are interested in your business, what you do, and how you can come in and declutter their digital environment?
Exactly, to offload it. That's the word I kind of use instead of detox. It's www.quokka Wellness, and that's QUOKKA Wellness.com. Great, and Carrie at quokkawellness.com as well. And I'm on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn too. Interestingly enough, but you won't see an awful lot on there. Actually, I'm quite quiet on them.
In limited time only.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
Before we go, you did a complete detox for how long?
A week back in January, so there was no TV, and I deleted all my apps from my phone. It was a challenge for RSVP magazine, so I took a daily diary every day, handwritten, and I just deleted all my apps. I was allowed to answer emails, and I was allowed to answer calls and texts. And I have to say, now I have a completely different relationship with my phone. It was hard, I'm not saying it was easy, but at the same time it was wonderful and it was bliss. There were highs and lows, but after the week now I'm completely, I would say, much more content with the relationship that I have with my phone. I'm much more in control of it. I decide when I pick it up and I decide when I put it down. Yes, sometimes I find myself mindlessly scrolling, of course, but as a whole, I feel like after doing the digital detox, I'm in a much more positive place with my phone.
You could reintroduce what you wanted.
That's it.
I can only do that when I'm away, several thousand miles away from Dublin, actually. Anyway, listen, we have to go way over time. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today. I want to get a quokka now, but I can't get very endangered. Anyway, time for a quick break. But when we come back, one woman was horrified after a gym used her horrific sign to attract new members. See you for that in 3.